Hi, welcome to our show, Life Matters. I am Dr. Steve Jarbo, and this is Dr. Pam Jarbo. Welcome to our show.
Today's show will cover some different topics. We have some books that are great resources about raising a healthier child. Dr. Steve is going to cover some information about a supplement that could make a huge difference in the health and well-being of your child. And we'll be sharing some stories about chiropractic and its influence on children.
Today I'm going to talk to you about omega-3 and omega-6 fats. Our body is supposed to have a balance of good fats and bad fats. And unfortunately in the United States, our balance is way off. The United States has a balance of about 25-1 of omega-6s to omega-3s, and the ratio should be about 1-1. So what omega-3s are, those are the fishes and the fish oils. You might hear people say, oh, I take fish oil or cod liver oil. Those are good fats. Those are the fats that our body needs. And the omega-6s come from corn oil and safflower oil and canola oil. Those are bad oils. They don't do well in our body and causes our body to get sicker and sicker. What happens is that it increases cholesterol in our body, and it increases our risk for heart attacks. It increases inflammation in our body, which causes a lot of sicknesses and diseases, as I've talked about before on other episodes. So one of the main things that omega-3s do is helps bring down that balance so that you're more in balance. Your body's in more in balance and it works better that way. So when we have lower cholesterol, that's going to decrease risk for heart attacks and strokes. Research studies show that men who take omega-3 fish oils, or if they eat fish at least once a week, have a 50% less chance of having a heart attack compared to men who don't take fish oils or don't eat fish more than once a month. So it's really, really important to take that. Now, another thing that omega-3s does is it's really, really good for children. Now, we're going to be talking a lot about children and children's health. A lot of children nowadays are sicker than they used to be. There's more ADD, ADHD, there's more learning disabilities, dyslexia, things like that. Oftentimes that's because of a chemical imbalance in our body. And omega-3 fish oils, it kind of acts like WD-40 in our nervous system. It helps our nervous system work a little bit more efficiently so that the brain can efficiently talk to the body and our brain works better. It's kind of like it lubricates the brain and has our brain working and functioning better. And that's going to be really, really important for our children. I got a phone call from a patient the other day, and she asked me about chiropractic and dyslexia. She was wondering if chiropractic can help with dyslexia. Her son has dyslexia and learning disabilities and was wondering if chiropractic can help with that. And so one of the things that we tell everybody that chiropractic doesn't fix or cure anything, but it helps our body work better. So what happens with learning disabilities and children with dyslexia is that the brain isn't functioning at an optimal level. And the part of the brain that does learning and reading comes from the back of the brain called the cerebellum. Now, coincidentally or not coincidentally, the back of the brain is also where your spinal cord extends down, all the way down your spine. And so oftentimes what we find with children is that they may have pulling or disruption in the rest of their spine that can be literally pulling down on their brainstem and causing pressure on the cerebellum so that the cerebellum isn't working properly. So research studies show that when children get adjusted through chiropractic adjustments, it takes pressure and pulling off of their spine, but also it takes pressure off of their brainstem so that the cerebellum can work a little bit more efficiently. So it can increase their cognitive behavior, it can affect their moods, their learning ability, it speeds up their brain's processing. So it's a really, really great, important thing to have your child checked for overall wellness of your nervous system. So this woman was so excited, and she's going to be coming in this week and bringing her child, and we're going to help her child function a little bit better.
So to wrap up this segment, we spent a lot of time talking about how to help children have a more healthy and vibrant life, and that's really important to us. We see that children are one of the fastest medicated populations in the United States. That's the fastest growing medicated population. And the second thing is that studies have come out to say that our children won't live as long as we will. And that's the first time that's ever happened in our human species. So it's a big deal what we're talking about today. But we thought it would be interesting to just share with you some reflections that we have in our combined 40 years of practice. And so we're going to ask each other some questions that might be helpful to all of the viewers. And so I wanted to ask you, on a personal level, why was it important to you that your own children have their nervous system checked and then adjusted if it was necessary in order to remove nerve system pressure?
All right, well, many reasons. One, as a chiropractor, I learned that the nervous system controls and coordinates everything in our body. From the moment of conception, all the way till birth, all the way till the moment that we die, our nervous system is controlling everything. So if there's any interference in the nervous system, the body's gonna have a harder time functioning. It's not gonna work at an optimal level. So I knew that when I had children, I wanted to make sure that they had nerve supply at the highest potential for their body all the time. So right from birth, we checked their spine to make sure that their nervous system was functioning properly. So a lot of people don't think like, well, kids don't need to get adjusted. They don't have any back pain. But the birth process alone is a huge thing for the baby. You know, it's really traumatic. Even the smoothest births can be really traumatic on their tender little spines and on their neck. The doctor's pulling and twisting. So I just wanted to make sure that their spines are functioning at optimal level all the time, because I want them to have less sickness, less disease, you know, more function, higher quality of life. So I just knew it was something that I was going to give my children for the rest of their life.
I think that's such a good point. I wanted to echo something that you were saying. I read somewhere that 120 pounds of pressure, I believe, is what is exerted on the nerve system. That was studied, and it's on our website in the resources section of our website.
In the birth process.
In the birth process, yes. And the amount of pressure that it would take to tear someone's spinal cord is very little above that. So it's a really intense process, not to mention if there was some challenges, which sometimes there are. And so no one's deliberately pulling or, torquing. I mean, they're just trying to make sure that the baby is delivered as healthfully as possible. So that's a great point. And I also think about colic and things like that. Like these babies in our office seem to have a better, more vibrant quality of life. And then the moms, as a result, do too, moms and dads.
Well, another thing that I think about is when your children start to grow teeth, you bring them to the dentist right away. They start checking teeth as soon as the baby has teeth.
That's a good point.
As soon as you're born, you have her spine. So that's I'm like, well, you should be checking your spine as soon as you're born then.
Right. That's a really good point.
So tell me, what are some of the, give me a favorite story that you have about children in our practice.
Well, I have two favorites. One, it's sort of collective. When I first started working for a chiropractor many years ago, I used to go into Harlem, New York, and you know the story, but I would go in with my chiropractor, and these children were born with AIDS or addicted to crack or had serious emotional challenges. Their parents had abandoned them or were in jail and couldn't raise them. And this woman, Mother Hale, she had taken them in and would take care of them, and my chiropractor would go and adjust those kids, and I saw them go from shrieking and running under the furniture to jumping into our arms, and stopped, within a month's time, had decreased bedwetting, allergies, asthma, and a lot of emotional issues were being resolved, sleeping better through the night. So it was more of an overall wellness, and I got to watch that transformation. That was a big honor. But the other thing I think about is there's this family that comes into our office. I mean, there's been so many things we've witnessed over the years, but I think about this family that has 4 children, and they all had different health challenges, and they started coming when the youngest one was about 1 year old. And at one point, the mom said to me, I just realized we've been coming once a week, since such and such time, and I haven't gone to the emergency room. And it just struck me as a strange thing to say. I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, I didn't really get it. And she's like, no, you don't understand. I've been going to the emergency room so many times a month, dragging all the kids out into the car in order to go to the emergency room. And that's not happening.
Why were they going to the emergency room?
High fevers, croup, there was some sort of emergency, situation. But because the children's immune systems were functioning better, because their nerve system was functioning better, that changed their whole quality of life. Right. And that was a really amazing thing for me to hear. I was, I was really touched by that.
Awesome.
What would be some of your favorite stories that you've heard over the years?
You mentioned bedwetting before, and I've had numerous times where it wasn't even a young child. I've had 9, 10, 12-year-old children coming in with bedwetting issues. So for them, it was very brave of them to come, first of all, and talk about it. And second of all, it was a quality of life thing because they couldn't have sleepovers because it would be too embarrassing to have a friend sleepover or to go to a friend's house and be wetting the bed at that age. So a big thing was the parents brought them to the medical doctor and went through the medical route, and they couldn't find anything wrong. And I said, well, let me check their nervous system. Let me check that part of the spine that controls the bladder, and let me check their upper neck that controls brain function. And as they get more nerve flow or better nerve flow going through their body, we noticed that their bedwetting stopped almost immediately. Depending on the case. But it was a huge thing. The kids are just like out of this world, so happy that they feel like they're normal again. That they can have sleepovers and be with their friends without having to worry about wetting the bed at night. So that's been really, really sweet, happy moments.
It's really amazing too, because I just think for the kids that come into our office, it's such a good experience. Like, they love coming to our office. Right. They love getting adjusted. And it's not like they're scared of other doctors. It's a process that feels great. It's a really warm environment, and that makes a big difference to a lot of children.
Yeah.
So to wrap up, one of the things we know for sure is that your health affects everyone you know and everything you do. And so I imagine it like radiating out in ripples. So when your family isn't as well as they could be, it affects everyone. Just like if you think about your family like fingers, if one of the fingers is hurt, it affects your whole hand. And I think about that when it comes to our families. And so we're always so happy and honored to support family wellness.
Absolutely.
Hi, and welcome to this week's Book Geek Corner. Today I wanted to share with all of you a classic, and it's by Dr. Mendelsohn. It's How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor. And it's kind of a snarky title, but I just wanted to speak a little bit about it. Before I start giving you another resource, what I want to say is that I think in today's world, this book was written actually in 1984, so very few people had the internet. So it wasn't like moms could go online and research every symptom that their child was having and freak out about it, thinking that it was like something horrible. And that's really changed how we take care of ourselves and our families. And sometimes it's really helpful, and sometimes it really adds to the fear mama dynamic. And so I'm going to explain a little bit about this before I talk about this book. When you were pregnant with your child, stem cells were secreted into your bloodstream throughout the pregnancy. And when you go into labor, massive amount of stem cells get secreted into your bloodstream. And they found decades after the child is born, those cells are in the mom's brain. So you moms know your child like no one else on this planet. You know something about your kids in a way that no one else does. And so a lot of times what's happening for us is that we may feel afraid because we don't know what we're doing. This is all new to us and we're not sure about ourselves as mamas. And so we may be reaching all the time to the internet and these resources, and then really sometimes losing common sense or losing trust with what's right for our child and our family. And so I encourage us to really give ourselves quiet or space enough to actually be in touch with the part of you that really knows your child. This book, if anything, it really does help a person to get more aware of that. Like the very first chapter talks about how parents and grandparents have more common sense sometimes than doctors. And I think actually the first chapter is titled, Everything's Better in the Morning. And I think that's really true. You just have to wait until morning. Sometimes we need to give something 24 hours. And the second chapter is parents and grandparents know more than the medical doctor. I mean, it's sort of facetious. Some of this is basic common sense. And of course, when there are really serious issues, we do need the help of our medical community, and thank goodness for it. But what's happening is that we're not seeing kids at age 10 or age 20 that have never been on medication. That's a big deal. Like, why is that happening? What is so different about our bodies? And have these medications been researched enough for us to know the long-lasting effects of being on them for many, many decades? So it's important for us to actually start thinking about things like nerve flow. That's our specialty, so we always think about that. But good sleep, proper nutrition, exercise, fresh air, happiness, low stress. These are really important old-fashioned ideals that my grandmother used to talk about. And cod liver oil, like the things that they used to do, we're finding now from these research studies that are just amazing for your health. Another resource that we give out to all of our patients is a magazine called The Pathways to Family Wellness. And it's just a really beautiful magazine that comes out quarterly. They have a website, so if you'd like to go to it, you can go and check out some of the articles or the resources that are associated with that website. You can just Google Pathways to Family Wellness. But this magazine, this particular issue, has articles about sports, teenagers, the fourth trimester, which really has to do with after the baby's born. And for so many people, you're just left to your own devices, and how to handle ear infections. They just handle a lot of different issues. It's written by medical doctors, chiropractors, massage therapists, and psychotherapists. So it's a really great resource for your family. I hope you enjoy.
All right, well, thank you for watching our show tonight. I wanted to add, we do take email for if you have any questions. My email address is drstevejarboe@gmail, and that's drstevejarboe@gmail.com. And Dr. Pam's is drpamjarboe@gmail.com. So if you have any questions, we're happy to receive those, and we'll do them on the air for you.
Also, our website, It's For Your Life.